Today, President Biden will deliver an address on anti-Semitism in the country at the National Holocaust Memorial Museum.
This comes as he faces criticism for his response, or lack of, to the anti-Israel protests plaguing cities and colleges across America. He said a little, but not much until today.
Right. This is so embarrassing. Peter Doocy joins us live from the White House with more. Peter.
These protesters, at least some of the protesters, have calculated that the best way to win hearts and minds for their cause, getting lawmakers to stop backing Israel, is to stop traffic and burn American flags near big events like the Met Gala. And we've got this video showing very physical clashes with police, and it proves that protesters are ignoring President Biden's pleas last week to protest peacefully. The remarks where he backed a right to free speech, but not to cause chaos. And that's what we continue to see at MIT, where authorities did successfully clear out an encampment on campus, only to have it reoccupied hours later by anti-Israel protesters. We do not expect President Biden to heed their calls to stop backing Israel when he speaks this morning at an event for Holocaust Remembrance Day. But at some point, we do expect White House officials to go into a little more detail today about ceasefire talks, at least more detail than Vice President Harris gave as she exited a shop in Michigan.
Madam Vice President, Hamas has accepted a ceasefire deal. Hamas has accepted a ceasefire deal. Your reaction?
And shrimp and grits is a very curious way to answer a question about a ceasefire. Shrimp and grits is also probably not what these protesters want to hear about a ceasefire. Back to you.
No kidding. And so, Peter, we're going to hear from the president today regarding anti-Semitism. He's going to say it's a bad thing. But ultimately, this is really bad. All these protests are really bad for Joe Biden. And you see Donald Trump saying, I'd take care of it. You know, this is probably helping Donald Trump politically and hurting Joe Biden.
Maybe, but you hear progressives saying that it is still early, and there are things that this White House is doing that could be a hat tip to protesters who really want the president to throttle back the support to Israel, including slowing down one of these weapons shipments to the Israelis. Officials, they had John Kirby come out and say they weren't going to explain exactly why the U.S. was slowing down a weapons shipment to Israel, but it seems like things like that could be a signal. Hey, we hear you. We see you stopping traffic. We're doing everything that we can.
Right. All right. Thanks,
Not
Peter.
much. All right.
And here's the thing about that. You're lengthening the war. Every time you stop him going into Rafah, every time you stop him from these guys from doing what they do best, the military, IDF, one of the best fighting forces in the world, from finishing off Hamas, then you're just lengthening the amount of time this contest goes on, this conflict goes on. He has absolutely half-measured everything. He half-measured Afghanistan. I want to get out, but I'm just going to screw that up. I'm going to go to Ukraine. I'm not going to give them the armaments they need, and when they ask for more, I'm going to slow walk them. When it comes to Israel, I'll back them up when the war gets tough. I'm going to slow down the weapons. I'm going to stop them from finishing off the last four battalions of Hamas. This is just terrible, equivocating leadership. You have the former president of the United States come out and say, get it over quickly. All right? When it comes to these protests, end them now. They're only going to get worse. How hard is that? He comes out of a courtroom where he's fighting for his freedom and can react to what's going on in the country.
Yeah, he said Election Day is going to be the most important day in America's history, that our country is a mess. Meanwhile, you have Joe Biden, who is delaying sending thousands of weapons to Israel and raising the question, is he doing this deliberately? Is 6,500 joint direct attack munitions? And John Kirby was asked about it. He refused to confirm the Biden administration has halted the shipment. He said, I am not going to confirm that.
They did, though. They did. He can say whatever he wants, but this is unbelievable that our ally, we would do this to our ally in the middle of a war, 7 months after when the biggest attacks on them since the 1940s.
Well, you know, even though apparently we are delaying these JDAMs, which essentially take a dumb bomb and make it a smart bomb, 6,500 of them, we're delaying that. But nonetheless, it's not like the Israelis said, OK, we're not going to move in. They've moved into Rafah.
Slowly. But not like they want to, because Blinken said don't go in.
Right, but they've gone in because, Brian, there are and everybody, everybody at the White House, it seems like, knows that this is a political hot potato. And one of the reasons the president probably has waited over a week is to let things calm down, but they have not ultimately. But he's got to find the right words to say exactly the right words. And he's got to address the protests.
You talking about the speech today?
Yeah, the speech has got to talk about how. Look, America, the three of us are in the First Amendment business. We're for free speech. But then when it crosses the line and gets violent, or then suddenly, and Brian, you talked to one of the kids from Columbia who's graduating. Think about it. If you are graduating from college this year, 4 years ago, you didn't get a high school confirmation and graduation because of COVID. And so now it's like two. The first one was because of a virus, and the second one was because of all of this.
I will tell you, the University of South Carolina's graduation on Saturday, they mentioned that. Our president said, basically, bless your heart, you went through so much 4 years ago, and now we are giving you a graduation, and the crowd went crazy. Yeah. They said they had security guards dressed in graduation outfits and clothes. They had security guards that looked like parents.
Just in case.
In the crowd, they said, you have no idea how much security we have inside this room. It went off without a hitch. There were no disruptions, and it was a beautiful ceremony. And I looked out at the sea of individuals, some of them first-time graduates, sometimes paying for their own way, first time in their family. Their parents are up in the crowd, so proud of their student who's down there, the first one in their family to graduate. And everyone at Columbia is missing out on that opportunity. Meanwhile, they paid $70,000, upwards of $70,000, $80,000 to go to school there every year, worked their tails off to get into an Ivy League university, and now they're not able to walk.
So Yola Ashkenazi is a senior. And she was just on with us, and this is her thoughts about finding out 24 hours ago there'll be no big graduation.
The administration has been saying these are peaceful protests all year. Otherwise, they would have shut them down in October and November when they first started. But they didn't. And now they canceled graduation. But why would they cancel graduation if they're peaceful protests? They can't get their story straight. A lot of the students there throughout this year have shown complete lack of moral clarity. A student actually one time came up to me in the middle of campus. I was just walking to class, and someone came up to me and goes, "Oh, you're that girl." And I'm like, I look at her puzzled. What do you mean that girl? She goes, that genocidal baby killer. And I'm like, me? I'm a 21-year-old college student who just supports Israel's right to exist. And there are people coming up to me on campus saying the vilest things. It's not okay.
It's not okay. Obviously, she just came from Israel. Well, all she talks about is resilience. These people are bouncing back. They're moving off the northern border, 200 miles. They got to live in hotels. Got to go to school in Zoom because of Hezbollah. In Hamas, they're so worried about a rocket. They're family members in the IDF. And she goes, and then you have Columbia. When you have the mayor of New York saying, if you have a graduation, we will watch your back. Our cops are ready to help you. And then Columbia goes, no, I'm not going to take the risk. What kind of message is that? When things get tough, I knuckle under. I will acquiesce to the protest. Like Rutgers actually caved into demands, and you have Brown caving into demands, and I'm sure other colleges too.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.